During World War II, some of Hollywood's top stars went overseas to fight. From Clark Gable, James Stewart, and Robert Taylor, each returned home to their careers, though they also changed people from their war experiences. But some performers didn't return home from World War II. Stay with us, as I would like to highlight those who were killed during World War II, whether it be on the battlefield, in training camp, helping with the war effort, or surrounded by mysterious circumstances. Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler was a young Hollywood star whose charm and talent lit up the silver screen, even if only for a short time. Starting his acting career in 1933, he quickly made his mark with standout roles in films like Manhattan Melodrama, Stella Dallas, and the beloved classic Boys Town in 1938. Over the span of a decade, he appeared in 35 films, earning a reputation as a promising actor, with a bright future ahead. But Jimmy's life took a courageous turn in 1943 when he left Hollywood to join the U.S. Army during World War II. Serving as a private in the 405 Infantry Division, he became part of the Allied efforts in France, fighting bravely alongside his fellow soldiers. However, his promising life was tragically cut short. On February 18, 1945, just 2 days before his 24th birthday, Butler was killed in action during intense battles in France. He was laid to rest in Lorraine, France, where countless other young soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice are also honored. Jimmy's story is a poignant reminder of the extraordinary lives and potential that were lost during the war. While his time in Hollywood and on the battlefield was brief, his legacy endures as a symbol of talent, bravery, and sacrifice. Carole Lombard. Carole Lombard, one of Hollywood's brightest stars and the wife of Clark Gable, played a big role in supporting the U.S. during World War II. Known for her quick wit and charm, she was also deeply patriotic. When the war began, Carole was determined to do her part, joining a war bond tour to raise money for the troops. She traveled to her home state of Indiana, where her energy and passion inspired people to contribute. By the end of her trip, she had raised an incredible $2 million for the war effort, which was a remarkable achievement that highlighted her dedication to the cause. On January 16, 1942, Carole boarded a flight back to Los Angeles after the tour. Tragically, the plane crashed into Potosi Mountain near Las Vegas, killing everyone on board, including her mother, Elizabeth Peters. Carole was just 33 years old. Her sudden death sent shockwaves through Hollywood and the nation, as she was not only a beloved actress, but also a symbol of American patriotism during a challenging time. Clark Gable was devastated by her loss. Their love story had captured the hearts of many, and her death left him heartbroken. Carole's commitment to the war effort inspired him to take action. Later that year, he enlisted in the Army Air Force, serving as a gunner and making significant contributions to the war. Gable's enlistment was seen as a tribute to Carole's bravery and selflessness. Carole Lombard's life may have been cut short, but her impact was lasting. She showed that even in Hollywood's glamorous world, stars could make a real difference. Her tragic death remains a powerful reminder of her dedication to her country and the deep bond she shared with Clark Gable. Phillips Holmes. Phillips Holmes was a Hollywood star who shone brightly, but for a short time. Between 1928 and 1938, he appeared in 48 films, making a name for himself during the golden age of cinema in the 1930s. You might recognize him from An American Tragedy, his standout role in 1931, or Dinner at 8 in 1933. He even took on a role in Great Expectations, showcasing his versatility. By 1938, though, Phillips felt the pull of the stage and shifted his focus to theater, leaving behind the glitz of Hollywood. But when World War II erupted, his priorities changed once again. In 1941, before the U.S., in the war, Phillips and his brother Ralph enlisted in the Royal Canadian Air Force, a bold move for the sons of an American artist and opera singer. Phillips trained hard, graduating from Air Ground School in Winnipeg and preparing to serve. Tragically, his life ended far too soon. On August 12, 1942, Phillips was aboard a flight heading to a base in Ottawa when his plane collided mid-air with another aircraft over Ontario. Everyone on board was killed, and Phillips was only 33 years old. His story is a poignant reminder of a life filled with talent and promise, cut short by the harsh realities of war. Glenn Miller, bandleader and trombone player. Glenn Miller led one of the most popular dance bands in the 1940s. Too old to be drafted, Miller decided to volunteer to lead the Army military band during World War II. Miller wanted to modernize traditional military marches and blended jazz songs with marches, such as St. Louis Blues March. America means freedom, and there's no expression of freedom quite so sincere as music, he said. Miller became a major and led the Army Air Force Band. He and his band traveled across England and performed for troops and gave 800 performances. Miller and his band stayed in England, but on December 15, 1944, Miller was set to fly across the English Channel to Paris, France, to perform in a congratulatory performance for American troops that had recently helped to liberate Paris. En route in a single-engine aircraft, a UC-64 Norseman, USAAF, serial 44-70285, Miller and the two other passengers, Lieutenant Colonel Norman Basel and the pilot, John Morgan, disappeared. Over the years, there has been much speculation over what happened, including Allied planes dropping their unused bombs in a designated area and hitting the plane. However, a 2014 Chicago Tribune article says a defective carburetor in the plane caused the crash. Miller was 40 years old. Bobby Weezer Hutchins. Bobby Hutchins, fondly remembered as Weezer from the beloved Our Gang series, was a child star who brought laughter and joy to audiences during his brief Hollywood career. From 1927 to 1933, he appeared in Hal Roach's iconic short films, charming viewers with his mischievous grin and natural comedic timing. But like many child actors, his time in the spotlight ended as he grew older. When his Our Gang days were over, Bobby and his family returned to Tacoma, Washington, where he focused on school and built a new chapter of his life away from Hollywood. In 1943, Bobby decided to serve his country, enlisting in the U.S. Army Air Forces. With big dreams of becoming a pilot, he joined the aviation cadet program, showing the same determination that once made him a star. Tragically, those dreams were cut short. Just 1 week before his graduation, on May 17, 1945, Bobby was involved in a mid-air collision while trying to land his aircraft at Merced Army Airfield in California. The accident claimed Bobby's life at just 20 years old, while the other pilot, Edward Hamel, survived. Heartbreakingly, Bobby's mother, Olga, had been planning to see him graduate the following week. His untimely death was a devastating loss, not just for his family, but for the many who still remember the little boy who once lit up the screen. Leslie Howard, British actor. Leslie Howard had a long film career that began in 1917 and lasted until his death in 1943. Of course, today, most people know Howard for his role of Ashley Wilkes in Gone with the Wind. By the time filming for Gone with the Wind was complete, the war had begun in Europe. Howard felt it was only right to leave Hollywood and return home to Great Britain, even though that meant forfeiting work in Hollywood. The British government asked Howard to make broadcasts to the then-neutral United States to change their minds and join the war effort. Howard also filmed and starred in several British patriotic films. In 1943, Howard, who was a civilian, boarded a civilian flight to England from Lisbon, Portugal, where he was acting as the British cultural ambassador, according to a 2015 article in The Telegraph. Howard's civilian flight, Flight 777 of the KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, was shot down by the Luftwaffe over the Bay of Biscay, killing all 17 passengers on board. Until June 1, 1943, Luftwaffe had never bothered a civilian flight. There is much speculation on why this particular civilian flight was shot down. Though it has never been confirmed, some have speculated that the Germans thought Winston Churchill was on board, which Churchill himself believed as the reason for the flight being shot down. Howard was 50 years old. Al Boley. Al Bowley, one of the most iconic crooners of the 1930s, captivated audiences with his smooth voice and heartfelt songs. He rose to fame performing with Ray Noble's orchestra, and their collaborations gave the world timeless classics like The Very Thought of You. Bowley's voice became a symbol of romantic escapism during an era marked by economic hardship and growing global tensions. By 1937, Bowley had moved to London with his wife, continuing to charm audiences with theater performances, recordings, and collaborations with various orchestras. His music provided comfort and joy during challenging times. As the world was engulfed in war, Bowley's career took a bold turn. His final recording, Irving Berlin's When That Man Is Dead and Gone, was a biting commentary on Adolf Hitler, showing how even his music could address the pressing issues of the time. This recording became a testament to Bowley's willingness to use his art to inspire resilience in the face of adversity. On April 16, 1941, Bowley performed at the Rex Cinema in High Wycombe, delivering another memorable performance to his adoring fans. After the show, he was offered a place to stay overnight, but he declined, choosing instead to return to his home in London. In the early hours of April 17, 1941, tragedy struck. As Bowley slept in his flat on Jermyn Street, a German parachute bomb fell near the corner of Jermyn and Duke Street during an air raid. The blast was devastating as his flat door was blown inward, striking him in the head and killing him instantly. Bowley's lifeless body was found on the floor beside his bed, a haunting end to a life that had brought so much joy to others. At just 42 years old, Al Bowley's life was cut short, but his voice and legacy live on. Arthur B. Woods. Arthur B. Woods was a talented British film director whose career was on the rise before World War II changed everything. Born on August 17, 1904, in Liverpool, he directed 27 films between 1933 and 1940, showing his ability to tackle a variety of genres. From light-hearted comedies and musicals to gripping crime thrillers, Woods proved he could handle it all. One of his most praised films was They Drive by Night in 1938, which showcased his skill for creating compelling stories. When war broke out in 1939, Woods didn't hesitate to step away from his thriving career to serve his country. He joined the Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve as a navigator and played a role in the Battle of Britain, one of the war's most crucial campaigns. His bravery and dedication were recognized in 1942 when he was awarded the Air Force Cross. Tragically, Woods's life came to an end on February 8, 1944. He was aboard a de Havilland Mosquito night fighter with Norwegian pilot Jan Otto Bugge when their plane collided mid-air over the Hampshire coast. Both men were killed in the accident. Woods was only 39 years old. His death cut short not only a life filled with courage, but also a promising career in filmmaking. Arthur B. Woods had already made a significant mark on British cinema, and his work remains a testament to his talent. His story is a reminder of how many lives and careers were altered or lost during the war. James Corner. James Corner was an American actor whose career in Hollywood was just taking off when World War II interrupted his life. Born on April 30, 1915, he appeared in only 3 films, Winter Carnival and What a Life, in 1939, followed by Scattergood Pulls the Strings in 1941. Though his time on screen was brief, it hinted at a promising future in the industry. In 1942, Corner enlisted in the U.S. Army, joining the 102nd Infantry Division of the 9th Army. Rising to the rank of captain, he embraced his leadership role with determination. Before heading overseas, stage actor Bob Falk asked him how it felt to be a commander. Corner likened the experience to being an actor ready to perform, saying, "Up until now, I've felt like an actor who rehearses right up until opening night, but never plays the part. I want to face the critics." On December 2, 1944, during combat in Germany, Captain James Corner was killed in action while serving with the 405th Infantry. At just 29 years old, he left behind a legacy of courage and dedication, both on the battlefield and in his brief but memorable moments in Hollywood. Richard Fisk. Richard Fisk was not a big star, but he worked hard and made a name for himself as a reliable actor in Hollywood. He started his career in 1938 and appeared in an impressive 89 films over just a few years. Many of his roles were small and uncredited, but he kept working steadily, showing his dedication to acting. His last movie, The Major and the Minor, was released in 1942, just before his life took a new direction. That same year, Richard was drafted into the U.S. Army during World War II. He served in the 9th Infantry Regiment of the 2nd Infantry Division, a unit known for its courage and strength in battle. Richard trained hard and joined the fight in Europe, where American soldiers were working to push back German forces. He faced many dangerous situations, like so many young men of his time. On August 10, 1944, while fighting in La Croix-Avranchin, France, Richard was tragically killed in action. He was only 28 years old. His life was cut short, but he left behind a legacy of hard work and bravery. Even though he didn't live to see his full potential as an actor, he showed tremendous courage by serving his country during one of the most dangerous times in history. Richard's sacrifice is not forgotten. He is buried at the Brittany American Cemetery in France, a place that honors the thousands of soldiers who gave their lives in the war. He was also posthumously awarded the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star for his service and bravery. Richard's story reminds us of the countless young lives lost during World War II and the sacrifices made by those who fought for freedom. While many Hollywood stars did not return from the war, several not only survived, but came back to create some of the most iconic performances in film history. Here are some of the actors who served in World War II and survived, highlighting their extraordinary stories of heroism and resilience. Jimmy Stewart. Jimmy Stewart was already a major star by the time the United States entered World War II. Known for his roles in films like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and The Philadelphia Story, Stewart was at the peak of his career. However, he was also deeply patriotic and became the first major Hollywood star to enlist in the war. Joining the U.S. Army Air Forces in 1941, Stewart initially worked as a flight instructor before moving into combat roles. Stewart flew numerous bombing missions over Europe, rising to the rank of colonel, and later becoming a brigadier general in the Air Force Reserve. His experiences in the war deeply affected him and influenced his post-war roles, including his performance in It's a Wonderful Life, which captured the emotional toll of sacrifice and perseverance. Clark Gable. Known as the King of Hollywood, Clark Gable was devastated by the death of his wife, Carole Lombard, in a plane crash during a war bond tour in 1942. Heartbroken, Gable decided to join the U.S. Army Air Forces, despite being in his early 40s and already a megastar. Gable served as a gunner and aerial cameraman, flying combat missions over Europe. He earned the Air Medal and the Distinguished Flying Cross for his bravery. Although he returned to acting after the war, Gable's time in the military remained a significant chapter of his life, demonstrating that even Hollywood royalty wasn't exempt from the call of duty. Audie Murphy. While Audie Murphy was not a major actor before the war, his military career turned him into a star. Enlisting in the Army at just 17 years old, Murphy became the most decorated soldier of World War II, earning every military combat award available from the U.S. Army, as well as several honors from France and Belgium. After the war, Murphy transitioned into acting, starring in films like To Hell and Back, which was based on his own autobiography. His courage and humility made him a beloved figure both on and off the screen. David Niven. David Niven was already a well-known actor in Britain when the war began. He returned to his homeland to serve, becoming one of the few British actors to join the military during the conflict. Niven was commissioned as a lieutenant in the Rifle Brigade and later joined the Commandos. During the war, Niven worked on several classified operations and was part of the Phantom Signals Unit, which worked to locate enemy positions. After the war, he resumed his acting career, delivering memorable performances in films like A Matter of Life and Death and The Guns of Navarone. Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda was a rising star when he enlisted in the U.S. Navy in 1942. Fonda, known for his roles in The Grapes of Wrath and Young Mr. Lincoln, felt a strong sense of duty to his country. He served as a quartermaster aboard the USS Satterley and later worked as an air combat intelligence officer in the Pacific Theater. After the war, Fonda returned to acting, appearing in some of his most iconic films, including 12 Angry Men and On Golden Pond. His time in the military added a depth and seriousness to many of his post-war roles. Kirk Douglas. Kirk Douglas, who would later become one of Hollywood's biggest stars, served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Commissioned as an ensign, Douglas worked as a communications officer on anti-submarine patrols in the Pacific. His service ended in 1944 after an injury, but his time in the Navy instilled in him a sense of discipline and resilience that he carried into his acting career. After the war, Douglas rose to fame with roles in Champion, Spartacus, and Paths of Glory. His on-screen determination mirrored the qualities he had shown during his military service. Lee Marvin. Before he became a Hollywood tough guy, Lee Marvin was a U.S. Marine who saw intense combat in the Pacific Theater. Serving as a scout sniper in the 4th Marine Division, Marvin participated in some of the most brutal battles of the war, including the Battle of Saipan. He was wounded in action and received the Purple Heart. After the war, Marvin brought his first-hand experience of combat to his roles in films like The Dirty Dozen and The Big Red One. His gritty performances reflected the reality of war he had lived through. Charlton Heston. Charlton Heston, known for his commanding presence in epic films like Ben-Hur and The Ten Commandments, served in the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II. Heston worked as a radio operator and aerial gunner on B-25 bombers stationed in the Aleutian Islands, Alaska. Heston's military service gave him a strong sense of discipline, which he carried into his acting career. His ability to portray larger-than-life characters was no doubt influenced by his real-life experiences during the war. Mel Brooks. Before Mel Brooks became one of the greatest comedic minds in Hollywood, he served in the U.S. Army as a combat engineer. Brooks was tasked with defusing landmines and building bridges during the Battle of the Bulge, one of the most critical campaigns of the war. After the war, Brooks used humor as a way to process the horrors he witnessed. His work in films like The Producers and Blazing Saddles combined his sharp wit with a deep understanding of human resilience. James Doohan. Long before James Doohan became known as Scotty in Star Trek, he served as a lieutenant in the Royal Canadian Artillery. Doohan landed on Juno Beach during D-Day and was wounded several times in battle, losing a finger in the process. Doohan's wartime experiences gave him a unique perspective that he later brought to his portrayal of Scotty, a character known for his ingenuity and courage under pressure. Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis, who would later become a Hollywood heartthrob, served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Curtis worked aboard a submarine tender and witnessed the surrender of Japanese forces in Tokyo Bay in 1945. After the war, Curtis pursued acting and rose to fame in films like Some Like It Hot and Spartacus. His military service added depth to his performances, particularly in roles that required a sense of adventure and resilience. Glenn Ford. Glenn Ford, known for his roles in Gilda and the Blackboard Jungle, joined the U.S. Marine Corps Reserve during World War II. Ford remained in the reserves after the war and eventually retired as a captain. His military experience gave him an air of authenticity in the many Western and war films he starred in throughout his career. Ford's dedication to his country was evident both on and off screen. Sterling Hayden. Sterling Hayden was more than just a Hollywood star. He was a man of action. Hayden served with the Office of Strategic Services, the precursor to the CIA during World War II. He conducted covert operations behind enemy lines in the Balkans, displaying remarkable bravery. After the war, Hayden returned to acting, starring in films like The Asphalt Jungle and Dr. Strangelove. His real-life adventures added a layer of complexity to his performances. Harold J. Tannenbaum. Harold J. Tannenbaum was a talented cinematographer and sound technician whose work contributed to both Hollywood films and war documentaries. Born on April 23, 1896, he worked for RKO and later collaborated with director William Wyler on war films during World War II. Tannenbaum's skill with the camera made him a key member of the 8th Air Force Combat Film Unit, tasked with documenting critical moments of the war. While filming the Technicolor documentary The Memphis Belle, A Story of a Flying Fortress, 1944, Tannenbaum was aboard a B-17 Flying Fortress on April 16, 1943, when the plane was shot down over Europe. Though some crew members managed to bail out, reports suggest Tannenbaum also bailed out, but tragically slipped out of his parachute, leading to his untimely death. Just days before his 47th birthday, Tannenbaum's life was cut short in his courageous pursuit of capturing history on film. Leigh Powell. Leigh Powell was a rising star in the world of B-movies, most famously portraying the Lone Ranger in 1938. With his rugged looks and charisma, he quickly became a staple of westerns, but his career took a backseat when World War II began. In August 1942, Powell enlisted in the Marine Corps, determined to serve his country. He joined the 2nd Pioneer Battalion, 18th Marine Regiment, part of the 2nd Marine Division, and rose to the rank of sergeant. Powell saw intense combat in the South Pacific, including the brutal battles of Tarawa and Saipan, earning respect for his courage and dedication. In July 1944, while stationed in the Tinian Islands, Powell's life came to an unexpected and tragic end. Initially, it was believed he had been killed in action, but further investigation revealed a different story. While celebrating a victory with fellow Marines, Powell consumed bad homemade sake, which turned out to be lethal. The same batch temporarily blinded another Marine, underscoring its toxicity. At just 36 years old, Leigh Powell's life was cut short, leaving behind a legacy of heroism both on-screen and in battle. His story serves as a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made by so many during the war. Walter Leigh. Walter Leigh was an extraordinary composer whose music captured the depth and beauty of storytelling. From stage productions to orchestral masterpieces and piano compositions, his work resonated with audiences and left a lasting impression. He also brought his musical genius to film shorts and documentaries, using his talents to enhance visual narratives. As the London Blitz gripped England during World War II, Leigh faced a heartbreaking decision. He sent his wife and children to Canada to keep them safe, choosing to stay behind and contribute to the war effort. Leigh's dedication extended beyond his music. He joined the British Army, serving in the Royal Armoured Corps with the 4th Queen's Own Hussars. His courage in battle reflected the same determination he brought to his compositions. Tragically, his life was cut short in Libya in 1942 when he was killed in action. At just 36 years old, Walter Leigh's promising career and bright future were ended far too soon. Despite his untimely death, his legacy lives on. Leigh's music continues to inspire, reminding us of the remarkable talent and bravery of a man who gave everything, both in his art and for his country. Walter Leigh's story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, even in the darkest of times. Eric Knight. Eric Knight was a gifted storyteller whose work touched the hearts of people worldwide. His most famous novel, Lassie Come Home, became a cultural icon, inspiring movies and a long-running TV series that showcased the bond between humans and their loyal dogs. Knight was also the author of This Above All, another powerful novel that made its way to the big screen, showing his talent for capturing deep human emotions. But Eric Knight wasn't just a novelist. He believed in the power of storytelling to inspire change, especially during difficult times. During World War II, he lent his talents to the Allied cause, working on propaganda films like Why We Fight and The Nazis Strike. These films helped inform and motivate the public, proving that his words could be as powerful as any weapon. When the war called for more than just words, Knight stepped forward to serve in the United States Army. However, his life came to a tragic end on January 15, 1943. He was aboard a C-54 aircraft that crashed over Dutch Guiana, killing all 31 people on board, including high-ranking FBI officials. Knight's untimely death cut short a career filled with creativity, purpose, and dedication. Despite his passing, Eric Knight's legacy lives on. His stories, especially the enduring tale of Lassie Come Home, continue to resonate with audiences around the world. They remind us of his remarkable ability to connect with the human spirit, even in the darkest times.